All right, welcome to episode 6 of That's What He Said. I am Derek.
I'm Mike.
And we're going to do a better job of kickstarting our episodes, and it's an evolution, right? We're trying to be better.
Yeah, we're trying. We have a lot of work to do. A lot of work, as you know, being on time with episodes, not sporadic dates when we have them.
There's no structure. There's no editing. Our lighting is not very good.
Yeah, lighting sucks. I've told them we got to get lighting. Also, I mean, COVID and riots, things we didn't foresee when we started this. So, in all fairness, we're doing the best we can when we can do them.
Progress over perfection. Right, Mike?
That's right.
So, how's things going?
Going good.
Yeah, good week. Well, good week and a half. How long it's been?
I can't say so. Country's going to shit and, all that. But, for me, it's been all right.
It has been rough, and we will not use this necessarily as a political platform, but I guess it's worth probably mentioning that we talked about it a little bit before we started, that it's very, very sad. It's, what happened with George Floyd is absolutely it's incomprehensible. It's there's no words, and I know everybody has different feelings on what the fallout has been, but it seems like, even though with the riots, at least portions of the country are pulling together, which is good to see.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. That's all I got to say.
I agree. So, smooth transition from that. So we'll get into to this week's episode. We wanted to I wanted to talk a lot about boundaries. And so there's a lot that it kind of encompasses that. And so we'll kind of dive right in. And when I talk about boundaries, this isn't necessarily with relationships. It's just how you treat yourself, the standards you hold yourself to. And there's a lot that goes into that. So to start, when I guess I say the word boundary, like, what do you think? What does that mean to you?
I mean now it means, honestly, if you would have told me boundaries even a couple of years ago, the only thing I would have thought of is the other person's boundaries, basically what I need to do to make sure I don't go over their boundaries. But as far as boundaries for myself, I had zero. But now when I hear boundaries, all I think about is things that I want and things that I need in a relationship, or any relationship, friendship, relationship, family, anything. Like, there needs to be boundaries, and they need to be respected, and they need to be respected, basically.
I think when I hear the word boundary, we were talking about this before we kickstarted this. I knew what a boundary meant, but like in the context of just relationships and yourself, I had no idea, because this is, again, one of those things that when you're growing up, your parents will talk to you about what a boundary in a relationship, at least mine didn't. I'm assuming yours didn't either. Yeah. And so everybody knows our backstories at this point, but you go into these relationships, what does that even mean? And so similar to what you just said, like, going into this marriage, what are the things that I want? What are the things that you want? What's healthy? What's not? I didn't have a clear understanding. And so it seems like, based on what you said, it was the same deal with early on in your life.
Same deal. And honestly, a boundary for me would be like a suggestion, like, oh, please respect my boundary, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it if you don't. Boundaries have to be they have to be known, and they have to be you can't go past the boundary that you set for people. And things I've learned through a long, long road of not having boundaries. But yeah, boundaries are important, and they need to be respected.
So do you, as you think back, and I think it's more prevalent here probably in the last couple of years, but think back early on, whether it's from the relationship or to yourself, is there any specific things that come to mind, like, that sticks out, like, hey, I know I was doing this and I wasn't honoring myself, or I wasn't being truthful? Is there like one very specific incident that maybe kind of sticks out to you, or just a feeling that you had, like, hey, I keep doing this and it doesn't feel right, or I'm just going with the flow, and every time I do this, I feel like I lose a little bit of myself?
I don't even know if it was, I could probably give you specific, but honestly, it was almost like an overall way of thinking that I had. Like, it was literally like, I would have things that I didn't want in a relationship, things that I hated in a relationship, the things I thought being a good boyfriend or a good husband would be sacrificing those boundaries for them, thinking that was like the betterment for the relationship. which, you know, is not at all. Like it's the worst thing I feel like you can do in a relationship. Like, and I don't even think the other person you're with would respect you. You know, maybe not like, you know, actually thinking about it. Subconsciously, they would be thinking like, man, like I could do whatever I want with this person, and they're not gonna care or have a thing. And you're not gonna get the same respect back from the other person. So I don't have like a specific. What about you? Do you have anything specific where you're like, man, this is killing me?
No, and I don't think this necessarily correlates with boundaries, but I think a lot of times, especially if it's a immature relationship, there's a sense of like keeping score. So, you know, I don't like this, but you know, if I let them do this, then I can get away with this, and that naturally leads to just some unhealthy tension and all that. And I think back, you know, especially as you have kids, it's like, all right, well, I don't necessarily like that you do that, or you want to do that, and there's not a discussion about it. It's more of like a scorekeeping thing. Like, all right, well, I'll let you do this or this, then if I do this. But I think like what I want to spend a lot of this session, or this episode at least, talking about is how do you communicate. All right, these are core things that are very important to me, and then there's like a subset of like, here's things that are important, but based on your feedback or what what your perspective is, you know, I can bend, or these can be negotiable. And then here's things that like, I don't really care. Like if you have this opinion, or if you want to do this, not that big. So like bracketing these things. And this is all things that I think I've become more aware of here probably in the last couple of years than I ever was in previous lives. But it's like, how do you get to the point where, you know, like, it doesn't matter what you want to do or what your perspective, like for me to just feel good about myself and my situation, like I am not going to bend on these.
Right.
And I didn't, to even think about those like 10 years ago, I didn't do that at all.
Right. Well, and so two things after that. One, I want to specify what a boundary is, at least to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is boundaries aren't things like they sleep with the TV on. I fucking hate that. And I can't sleep at night. Like that's something you can work with your partner, and it's not a big deal if you just decide to let them have the TV on. Boundaries are stuff like things you truly believe that make you who you are, whether it's, you know, something like, you know, you go to church or you don't go to church, or things about exes, or things that are actually a foundation making thing for the relationship. And those are things like you have to have for yourself. Those are boundaries to me. Not, like I said, not little things. There are so many little things in a relationship. You're two different people. Of course, you're not all going to have the exact same things. You might like sports. They might like soap operas. All these things like that. Like those sacrifices you should make in a relationship because you want to, you know, be there for your partner. But to add on the other thing though is like, I don't think you can even have boundaries unless you actually know yourself.
Right.
So if you don't know yourself, if you don't understand what you want, if you're trying to get into a relationship, you're not going to have real boundaries. You're going to have these little, you know, picket fenced boundaries where they can feel like they can just go, you know, this gate's open. I'll just walk through this boundary because you don't really seem to have any like set things for me that you want to be. So honestly, I think sometimes it's our fault where we don't actually set the boundaries for the person. And then if you wait too long and then you try to set a boundary, then at that point it seems like you're a different person than what they thought they were getting. So I think it's super important to know who you are, have boundaries, and actually set the boundaries and not let the other person, you know, cross those boundaries. Now, if they cross them, I mean, obviously you can't stop them, but then at that point you need to understand, you know, you need to start having self-respect and realize, you know what, maybe this isn't going to work out. So those are the things, but that comes with a lot of maturity. I mean, you know, we're pushing 40 and we're just figuring this out. So it's not something you learn overnight. And, you know, maybe some people get lucky, or maybe some people have always been that way. But like us, we're, you know, people pleasers. We like to make the other person feel better. But honestly, like I've realized now, that's like a toxic trait. Making somebody else feel better is not a good trait anymore.
We will come back to that comment, people pleasers. And yeah, I would 100% raise my hand that is a trait of mine. And I would have said 10 years ago that being a people pleaser is a good thing. Like, because you know, you want to be liked and all that stuff, but inevitably by doing that, you're always putting other people ahead of your own needs.
Yeah.
And, you know, to finally realize that. So, let's do this because we spent a lot of time talking about, you know, our past life, and a lot of what we want to do with this podcast is talk about future state. And so, you know, it's been 8 years. You've gone through a lot of trials, tribulations, and where your head's at now is a lot different than where it was, you know, maybe post divorce. And so, talk a little bit about that, maybe those early couple of years, because I think that's coming out of that, you lose yourself. Like talking about like you can't have boundaries or set boundaries until you understand who you are. And so, how do you get to a point where you know that? And maybe there's not an easy answer, but talk about your experience, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely not an easy answer. Because you would have thought after my divorce I would have figured it out, and you know I thought maybe I had a better understanding of like how I needed to be. But I can tell you right now, even though I had a lot of time reflecting on all the things that went wrong and what I could have done better, I still didn't understand like this boundary thing. I just didn't. So the next relationships I had were, one was okay, and then the other one was an absolute disaster. I mean, as worse as you can get. Like this would be a 4-episode thing just to talk about this relationship. That's how bad this relationship was. And I thought I was smart coming into it, and now after having such shit happen to me, I've realized that this mentality, and the only thing I realized was I started thinking back, like, what's the common denominator besides just me in the relationships? Like, what is it where they start off great, and then after a while, it just seems like they start crumbling, and then I start getting upset and bitter and not realizing, like, what is happening? How are things changing? And honestly, I think the most important thing is boundaries. Like, I have no boundaries. I give them no, like, at all idea of what I really want in the relationship. And me thinking that just being there for the person and giving them whatever they want is good, it's so not good. Like, if you give a kid anything they want, is that going to be a great kid that grows up? No, it's going to be a shit kid who's spoiled and doesn't have any idea how to respect you. And I never looked at relationships like that. And now I understand, like, I have to have a freaking prison wall of boundaries that I will not budge at all for anybody to not respect. And it's fine if they don't. I just will know that this is it. Like, this is no longer like I'm just going to try to make this better and just maybe move my wall a little further back and move my boundary a little further back for them so I can make them happy. Like, I also need to be happy. Everybody needs to be happy in relationships. So everybody needs to respect everybody's boundaries. And, you know, but if no boundaries are set, then you really can't blame the other person.
Well, like, I hear you talk about that. And like, I think it's that when you say it, like, it's confident and like, it almost comes across harsh. Like, no, like if this, like, there's no, but it's not like you have like a list of like 27 things like
no,
this. Like, I mean, we're talking like core fundamental, like here, like you talked about, like I will go to church, and if you're not going to do that, or my kids come first, and by that I mean I am not going to miss a school event. I'm not going to miss a sporting event. And if I'm in a relationship with you, and if you make me feel bad about wanting to, even if it's a day maybe you're not with your kid, if I want to go watch, you know, Johnny's baseball game, and you make me feel bad about it, like, we'll have a discussion. But if that continues to be the case, then like, no, like that's a deal breaker.
Deal breaker.
And I think with folks coming out of divorce or long-term relationships where kids are involved, it's so easy because everybody wants affection, everybody wants that relationship, that if you start to compromise those things, it's easy to do that in the short term. But you know, in the moment, it's like, all right, well, if I miss one of Johnny's games, not a big deal. But now, like, the next time that same scenario happens, like, well, no big deal, you missed the last one. Like, you keep doing it. Now you're not being true to yourself. Something that you held very, you know, prideful and close to yourself, of what was important, the boundary that you set, you're breaking. And then all of a sudden, that's when like the shame and the guilt, like all this shit just starts to
100%. You feel terrible about yourself. And here's the thing: it may sound harsh, but here's what I've realized. Like, yeah, it's harsh for somebody who doesn't want to follow those boundaries, but you may find somebody who is absolutely on the same page as you. And you're never going to find that person unless they understand your boundaries 100% and they respect them and they actually still want to be with you. There's no reason to, like, I've learned, there's no reason to pretend and try to make them feel better if that's not what you want. So that's the biggest thing. The self maturity that you need for yourself is something that I don't think any of us have early on in our relationships. That's why I feel like getting married young is not a good idea, because this is a thing that takes a long time to get good at. Like, you have to be strong and feel like you're not being selfish. There's a difference between being selfish, like I said, turning the TV on or off, having, you know, the bathroom light on, whatever those little things are. Those are not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fundamentally core things that you believe 100% for yourself. Why would you want somebody coming into your relationship that doesn't feel the exact same way you do? And I never thought about it like that. I never really did. I thought, you know what, like, yeah, you do this, I do that. We don't really agree with that, but you know what? That's not a big deal. It is a big deal. You find out it's a huge deal. So yeah, I mean, especially things like kids and all that stuff. Like, of course, everybody's gonna have their own viewpoints, and maybe the person you're with doesn't have boundaries of their own. That's honestly something that you need to think about. Do I want somebody who doesn't even know themselves? You can't be in a relationship if you don't know yourself. I've learned this. Like, this is a new thing for me. Like, you can't fully be into a relationship if you still have no idea who you are. Like, there needs to be two people who are very confident, very understanding of themselves, know what they want, and if they want the same thing, I honestly think there's no way that relationship could fail. If you both feel the exact same way and you both have that liking with each other. These are things that I'm telling you, don't learn. You just don't.
Nope.
You don't learn until you. Maybe you can learn when you're young. I'm not saying nobody can when they're young, but man, it's something that I just have now just started realizing the past couple of years. Like, oh my God, like, why am I giving so much to somebody? Like, when I don't feel that way, when I'm just doing it for them, you know, you don't realize, like, you think you're doing good and you're like, oh, I'm such a great boyfriend. Like, I'm doing so much for you. Like, I'm so great. And even if you don't throw it in their face, you're still inside not really feeling the best that you should be feeling in a relationship. And that's not how relationships should be. You shouldn't just be sacrificing for them always. Like, this is not how it should be.
Well, it's like, I mean, just to put it like in a practical sense, like, you know, let's say that, you know, you hadn't dated anybody for a year, seriously. And you meet this woman and she is fun loving, attractive. I mean, whatever it is that like does it for you, you know, and you're talking, a couple weeks go by, a month goes by, you start to have more conversations, and then all of a sudden it's you know, you try and explain like, oh, here's my life, here's what I do, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I want you to go out on Saturday night and we're gonna do this and that, and we probably won't come home until 2:00 in the morning, but you know that you have to pick your kid up at 8:00 because you've got to be XYZ, and you're like, you know, it's like, I mean, like, I shouldn't do that. And I think it's easy for people maybe in our situation, if you aren't of mindfulness of that, of like, fuck, man, it's been a year since I felt the way that I feel, at least in the first couple of weeks of meeting this woman, like, like, okay, like I could, like, and then you set that expectation with them, and now you're kind of fucked at that point. You are.
And let me tell you, this is going to save a lot of people who are just now divorced or going through divorce or have been divorced short time. If you are divorced and you have not figured your stuff out, and you meet somebody who gives you things the person you have been with for years did not give you, it's a drug, it's toxic, it will make you do things that you never would have done before because you're so happy you're finally getting it, whatever it is, whether it's affection, whether it's they do whatever that your ex didn't do, all these things that you're just like, finally, I got it. And all these red flags pop up and you're like, I don't even care. I'm finally getting what I wanted. Yes, this is the worst thing they can do. It's the most dangerous thing. You will find yourself in the worst relationship ever if you do this. You have got to learn what you need and understand that, yes, this person didn't give it to you just because you're getting this one thing. And even though everything else that they're doing is absolutely awful, like making you miss your kids' games or making you feel guilty, not even if you miss it. Let's say you end up going, but the whole time they're shitty at you or they feel mad, they're just mad, and you can tell. And like, you almost feel like you need to make it up to them. If somebody needs you to make up for going to your kid's game, it sounds crazy. Like right now, like who would feel bad about that? It can happen, especially if it's somebody who has given you those things that you've just been yearning for years. I promise you this. So that's a great thing to say because you'll do those things.
So
those boundaries, you'll be like, fuck my boundaries. Yeah. I'm finally getting that one thing I wanted. So it's the worst thing.
And again, like we say this, 8 years post-divorce, 5 years, like this is, you don't, like you just said, like, will save yourself a lot of heartburn, but like you almost have to kind of live.
I mean, obviously you're not gonna listen to me, but I hope you do. I really hope you do because I promise you, it's the worst.
No, but that's what we're trying to do is just kind of share our experiences. Like, so for me, and I'll go first. I think about like my boundaries, and I mean, there's more, but there's three core ones for me. Like, I mean, kids first and foremost, and I've got 50-50 schedule with my kids, and not to say it's if they're with me, I mean, I'm all in, but I've been very big on if unless it's a work thing or some extraordinary like outside family thing, I will do my best to make all of their extracurricular events, even on days that I don't have them. So like that's very important to me. Um, the second one would be my job. I'm fortunate enough to have a job where I do get to travel, and sometimes that includes weekends, and I've got to adjust things with my kids' schedule. So I'm like my career is very important to me. So like that's another one that I don't want to have to give up opportunities for that. And then the third one, which this is the one that occasionally I think I'll take a back seat. Like I really try and at least stay as healthy as I can be. And so, we've done some races together, and there's an element of training and all that stuff. And I've done that before in the past where there's been, I mean, literally months where I go by and I don't do anything. And for me personally, getting some physical activity just makes me feel better. So if I'm put in situations where now I can't, go for a run or do something like that, and like I just don't feel good about myself. So like for me, those are three things like from a boundary perspective that are important to me. Like what about you?
I mean, obviously the one that is like obvious is the kids. Like, do not make me feel bad if I go to my kids' stuff. Do not make me feel bad if I pay more attention to my kids. Do not make me feel bad in any way when it comes to my kids. None. There's no reason for you to want to take a front seat or even a passenger seat next to my kids. The kids come first, you come second. And it's not because I don't love you or like I say, we're in that kind of relationship. It's nothing to do with that, but they're my kids. And if anyone who has kids would understand that, but even if they don't have kids, they should respect you enough to be like, you know what, I understand, and it's not a big deal. And I would never make you feel bad for missing this, missing that, wanting to do things with your kids. So that's 100%. Now, if it's even a small hint of upset or jealousy of my kids, it's done. It's not even a question anymore. I don't care how long we've been good, how great it's been. Like that to me shows me exactly who you are. That means you're selfish inside, and I don't want that. Two with me is family. Like my family, we're a big family. We're Catholics and we're Greeks and we're Irish, and we like to get together for everything. It doesn't matter what it is. The whole family comes, and there's a lot of family shit. And yes, I know sometimes it can get annoying, but I enjoy it. I love seeing my cousins, all 125 of them. I love it all. And if that's a problem to me, that means that you're not supporting something that I enjoy and love. So like to me, that's a huge thing. And even if you don't have a big family, and even if family things aren't your thing, I'm not saying that I expect you to be the life of the party, but I expect you to understand that that's a big part of my life and that you need to be okay with it. Third one, honestly, is just, I guess, man, I don't even know. I have a lot now, I feel like.
I said you had 20. You didn't have 27. Maybe there's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll tell you right now, if a girl or if a woman ever says to me, "You're my everything," I'm done. I'm it. I don't want to be somebody's everything anymore. I've had that. It's not good. It's pressure. It's awful. That means what you do affects them in every single way. I don't want to affect somebody's day with every decision I make. I don't. I want somebody who is with me, who compliments me, and I compliment them. I don't want somebody who needs me.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's the biggest turnoff you can have. And it's not only a turnoff, but it's toxic. It's super toxic because you'll get the messages. Like, let's say you're hanging out with friends, you'll get the messages like, "Are you coming home? What are you doing?" And even though you've already laid out the plan for them, it's like you're still getting these messages like, what's going on. Like you're just trying to make me feel bad now. And I'm not saying like, now, obviously, if you just hang out with friends every day and you neglect the person, that's totally different. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about somebody who absolutely needs you all the time. They just can't go 2 seconds without needing to hear from you. If you message them without a heart emoji, they feel like you hate them. I mean, everybody knows what I'm talking about. There is a difference between a healthy kind of way and then a person who's just lost without you. And to me, that's a huge boundary for me. I will not talk to somebody that needs that. If that's the case, then I'm not the person for them anymore.
So it's probably a good segue into, like, we've talked about boundaries for ourselves, but there's whether the boundaries are the right word or maybe it's more expectation when you do enter into these relationships on what the, what the standard is of how we're going to operate. Everybody at this point comes with a certain level of past experiences, whether it's their relationship with their ex and their kids and that arrangement with their jobs, or maybe it's just how they feel like a relationship, should operate, whether that's, to give a specific example, their opinion on past relationships, like whether or not they are friends with exes or whatever it might be. And so I think that's one of the things that I don't know, struggled with. I'm just trying to come to grips with, because there's a difference between kind of setting an expectation or a boundary versus being controlling. And like, how do you navigate that the right way to be like, hey, like, I'm not trying to tell you like you have to live your life this way. I'm just saying, like, for me, if you're going to do this, like, I'm not comfortable. And if you don't see there's a problem with that, then I guess it just means that we're not compatible.
Right.
And maybe that is the right way to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of leading your best foot forward in a new relationship and trying to be this best you, how about just be you? Be what you need them to know right off the bat. Not make them feel like, oh, I don't care about guys. You got exes? I don't care. I'm confident. I don't need that. Even though, let's say you've been hurt in the past and you are hurt and you're not excited that they talk to exes. I'll tell you right now, like, if a woman talks to her exes that they did not have a child with, if they're friends with them, if they're still around in their life, I mean, unless it's like a third grade boyfriend, like, I'm sorry. Like, to me, there's no reason why that ex needs to be in the picture. I'm not saying you can't have guy friends. I'm not saying any of that stuff. But if there has been a relationship in the past, to me, I just feel like if they keep them around, there's usually a reason. Now, maybe not always, and I'm not trying to generalize, but like and if that's not how you feel, then that would be fine. But like in a new relationship now, if they talk to a bunch of exes, it's just not for me. So if you say it up front and you tell them, like, look, like, I don't understand why, you would talk to exes. Like, I have exes and I don't know any of them anymore. Right. I don't know anything about them anymore. You know why? Because I don't care about them anymore, because they're exes. Now, it's just how I feel. And if you don't feel that way, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying you have to. So that's where it would kind of end. They would either accept it and understand what you're saying, or they would be like, fuck you. Like, what are you, like, are you trying to control me? No, I'm not. We're just meeting. I'm not trying to control you. I'm letting you know my boundary, and I don't like that. And if that's how you are, that's fine. Like, you'll find a guy that's fine with that. Not really, though. But he'll say he's fine with it because he thinks you're hot and he wants to, get this to work out and hope that you'll change your mind after he woos you. But, like, everybody needs to be honest with each other. And I think that's the problem, is everybody pretends right off the bat and tries to make them like, oh, I don't care about that. It doesn't bother me, even though it does bother you. I think if you're just honest up front, you won't have these issues. I think that's the key, because if you already told them it doesn't matter and then you try to change it, now you are being controlling. Now, all of a sudden, you've switched what they thought of you. Like, let's say they really are looking for your boundaries. You set a boundary like, I don't care. Well, now that you care, now it's like, well, what the hell? Like, you said you didn't care. Like, I wouldn't have gone into this if I knew you cared.
I mean, a lot of it goes back to, like, just that machoism, like, male, like, if to your point, like, if you meet a female and, like, you're attracted to them first or second conversation and they casually bring up, like, oh, no, like, I'm still super close with XYZ and a couple, like, if you're not able to set those boundaries, or you're afraid of coming across as insecure, be like, I mean, there's probably a way that you could phrase it, be like, no, that's great if that's for you, but, like, I'll tell you, just based off of my experiences, like, that's not a place for me. If you're cool with that, like, that's not for me. Like, it's so much easier said than done, because, again, there's a scarcity complex where it's like, oh man, like, again, like, maybe I haven't been on a significant date in a long period of time, where I just find this person so attractive that you're in these moments, there's something in your mind. It's like, oh, I'm just going to overlook all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say what I think that person wants me to hear, but I know deep down it's fucking painful. Like, it is killing me to say this. And, like, you can say it and it's going to come back to bite you.
It will come
back
to
a month, 2 months, 2 years. that shit's not going away.
No,
so
it's
like
not.
speak your piece up front.
Yeah, you have to do it up front. That's the best time to do it because I feel like people can talk to each other more up front early on because like it's new. They're still trying to figure each other out. Like, let's say you're like, why are you talking to an ex? Like, I think that's crazy. They can maybe not feel so like taken aback because it's not like this is a conversation you had and you were saying you're fine with it. And then they feel defensive. They could just be like straight up like, look, we dated in 7th grade. We kissed once and we've been friends for 20 years after that. Like, is it that big a deal? Then you can be like, okay, you know what? Like, nah, that's not a big deal. Like a kiss in 7th grade. Like, no, I'm not going to sweat on that. But like, let's say it's a guy that they were with for 4 years and they just broke up 2 weeks ago and they're still talking to them. Yeah, fuck, that's a big deal. Like, yeah, that's a big deal. But if you don't say anything, you may not know the history. You may not understand. So like, I just think if you're up front, you know, and they may try to make it seem better. And that's when you have to know yourself and know, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with it. It's fine. And that's not you making them change. It's not you telling them you can't talk to your ex or you're not with me. That's just you saying, I'm done. I don't feel that. And then that's not you controlling them. That's just you setting the boundaries for yourself and being fine. And to me, before I was like, man, that's selfish. Why would I make somebody feel bad for being in a relationship with an ex? But that's not what it is because it's the boundary that you're setting for yourself that you know that's going to bother you. Whether it's because you've been cheated on in the past or maybe it's just because you don't trust dudes because you're a guy and you know how they are. Like, now, there is a difference. If a girl's had a friend forever and they've never dated, even if that's something that bothers you, I feel like that's something that you got to work on for them. If you're like wanting to be in a relationship, that's totally different. Like, if they've had them, there's no that's controlling to me. Like, it's a friend. They've always been a friend. I'm not going to tell you. Now, let's say early on that still makes you feel bad. You can say that. I'll probably tell you. The girl will be like, all right, fuck you, you're too. Like, I can already tell you're going to be controlling. Like, pretty soon you're going to be telling me what I can wear. Like, so like that kind of stuff. But if you're up front early on, I feel like both of you guys would be a little more open if you open up. If you don't open up, you're both going to fake everything until you get into a relationship and you both find out you hate each other, really, but you just thought each other was hot. So like, it's got to be open.
And that's like the if you set the expectation or the precedent up front of honesty, the quicker that you get to that vulnerable state where you can share like, why are you asking those questions? Like, instead of burying that shit for the first year, it's like you could be 2 months in and be like, all right, listen, I'm sorry I keep peppering you about this, but like, here's some things that have happened in the past.
Yeah.
And like, get to that state where you can be open. And if you're with the right person, instead of them dogging you or demeaning you or making you feel bad, they're like, no, like, all right, I appreciate you sharing. Makes more sense. Like, I'm not that person. The way I deal with things aren't the same. I appreciate you sharing because now I know your perspective and where you're coming from. Dude, like when you can get to that point with somebody, fuck, that's gold.
Yeah,
that is gold.
Great, yeah.
Because, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, we've mentioned it here, like that just people, and it's for whatever reason, man, that honesty, the walls, the protectionism, you know, especially when you get to our point, it's very difficult for people to want to open up like that. And it feels like there has to be a timestamp. Like I can't get to that point where I peel back those layers of onions where the way that I think or explain myself to you makes sense. Like it's almost like you have to be invested with me for a year. Like, no, but like if we can be honest up front, and that's even in these moments when like they do something in the first 2 weeks, we're not being a dick about it. Just like, hey, like this happened or you said this, like kind of makes me uncomfortable. Like if you're with the right person that understands himself, like those conversations become easier and then you just get to that space quicker.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. The more you practice it, the easier it's going to get. And then later in the relationship, it's not going to be weird that you have to say how you're feeling about something. Now, let's say you get into a new relationship and they have a bunch of guy friends and let's say you had been cheated on and you're uncomfortable with that. They have guy friends. I'm not saying that you have to go right out and be like, I don't like that you hang out with guys. Like, it's really hard on me. But like, let's just say, like, you probably should. Like, I'm not saying like, but maybe you should be like, look, like, I've been cheated on before. It's really hard for me to like trust somebody right away. You know, I feel like if you talk to somebody about it and they actually care, they're going to do things to make you feel better. Like they're going to say something. They're going to be like, you know what? I totally understand. They're not going to make you feel like you're crazy that you feel that way. I feel like everybody's almost been cheated on. I feel like it's almost inevitable in a relationship, whether from high school, from whatever. So everybody knows that feeling. So for somebody to brush it off or to make you feel bad about it, I think would probably tell you all you need to know. They're probably going to cheat on you, and they think it's fucking stupid that you're even going to bring it up to them. Like, yeah. I feel like somebody with compassion or any kind of empathy and a little bit would understand, like, you know what, like, now obviously if you're not like crazy about it, like I need your phone, I need this, like I'm just saying, right. Like you express that's something you have an issue with and like you're working on, but like, yeah, it's just it's unnerving to know. Like they might like, hey, it's no big deal. Like I promise, you'll see, it's not a big deal. Like they could do things. So and like I said, it's easier early on than later. Now I know early on, like I said, everybody wants to put their best foot out and they want to make everything seem perfect. But like this is how we all get in shit relationships, because we pretend for months, and then we finally are sick of everything, and then we're like, okay, now I need to let you know how I really feel. And then everyone's like, well, what the fuck? And then it's just bad. Yeah. It's just bad.
Well, and it's, and you've taught me this a lot too, is you got to feel the pain, man. You go from these experiences that weren't ideal or whatever, and it's difficult for people to, whatever amount of time, where some people maybe it's 2 weeks, some people it's maybe 2 years. And you can numb it with drugs, alcohol, gambling, insignificant meetups with people, like whatever it is. But at some point, if you don't come to grips with it, you're doing yourself injustice, and then ultimately you're just going to carry it over to so like you could actually meet the right person, and because you haven't taken the necessary time to deal with baggage from past stuff. And I don't think and I would say, like, I don't think it ever goes away. Like, there's always going to be probably some level of pain or remembrance or memory, but it's just what you do with it. And that's one of the things I think that you've taught me is, like, when you have these pain, instead of burying it, it's like, just accept it, understand kind of what's going on, where those emotions are coming from, and then process it and think about the changes you've made, the changes that you want. It just takes time. There's a lot that goes into it, but if you don't do that, or at least come to the mindset of like, oh man, I feel a certain way, instead of like all of a sudden like, oh, I've got to alter my mind, or I've got to distract myself. Like, no, it's all right. Like, feel it, accept it, sit in that space, and then move on. And so like, there's that work that you have to do for yourself, but then carrying that into like the next relationship, when you do come to these moments where there's triggers that happen in the new relationship, something that triggers you from something that happened in the past, instead of now you projecting some bullshit that happened in the past on a new thing. It's like, all right, like this is a whole new scenario. There's a whole new past experience that is coming from that other person. And now I should have, if I've done the work, learned from what happened in the past, and I should be able to explain myself better at this point. Like I should be able to talk through it. I should be able to openly discuss, and what you said earlier, if I've done that work myself and I do it and it doesn't get reciprocated, then that just means that you're not the right person.
Yeah, 100%. And this is just my opinion. I'm not saying it's 100% fact, but if you get into a new relationship and you were projecting from your last relationship, you've already doomed the relationship right off the bat, because you haven't really healed or figured out what you need or want or anything like that. Like, you don't love yourself enough. You have not got to that point to actually have a successful relationship. Now, I'm not saying they can't work out somehow, but I feel like that means that other person is going to do so much more work coming into a relationship where somebody needs them to basically heal them. And I've been on that end where I was the one trying to heal the other person, even though I always had my own stuff, but like, thinking that I'm this great guy who's just healing this person, trying to help them and get them through all their stuff they're still going through. It kills me. It killed me. Yeah. It literally took my life and soul and sucked it out into their just shit. And here I am thinking that I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it literally almost, I feel like it literally killed me. I mean, I lost weight. I got stressed. All these things that I thought I was doing in the name of this relationship, realizing that all I was doing was hating myself and killing myself. And I just feel like people have to be in a good headspace before they get into a new relationship. And then they'll be able to see red flags that they wouldn't have been able to see or ignored because, like I said, they were getting that one feeling that they hadn't got for years. I mean, everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel, compassion. Everybody wants that person to feel like they understand them. And, some of those things can be very seductive. And, there could be a lot of other bad shit that goes with them. And you think, man, I don't even care. Like, I finally getting this thing and I feel so good, even though I feel bad all this other time. Like, maybe we can work this out. Well, I think 9 times out of 10, it just doesn't work that way. And, I just feel like you really need to love yourself and be in this great headspace. And that could take years. And who wants to be alone for years? Trust me, I understand. It's not fun. It's not great, but man, I feel like that next relationship I get, it's going to be the best thing ever. And, whenever that happens, I know this sounds crazy, especially if you're not in my headspace. Like I would, if somebody told me this, I'm like, you're fucking crazy. But like, I just feel so confident in what I'm saying now about this. So
no, I've the people watching this haven't seen it, but like, I know the Mike Sellis of marriage. I know post-divorce. I know like bad relationship, post-divorce where you were at, 3-4 years ago to where you are now. Like it's just night and day, but you've afforded yourself the time and taking all this stuff. So, I can see it, but yeah, it's time. Everybody's cliche to say, but like, to take the time and then actually reflect,
and effort.
Effort. Well, and like you go back, so we were talking about earlier, like the whole people pleasing, like personality trait, and that's in a good relationship. Like you want to be supportive, but trying to draw that line of like, all right, that's a you thing. Like I don't, and where that comes into play, like, and there's so many different scenarios, whether it's your significant other's family life, whether maybe it's a job situation, they're at a crossroads, what they're trying to do, whatever. If you're a people-pleasing, problem-solving type of personality, which I would 100% raise my hand and say I am, it's so easy to be like, tell me, I want all the details. Tell me about it, because I'm going to spitball with you. I'm going to give you suggestions on how you should fix it or approach it, and you got to stop yourself. Like, there's a difference between being like, hey, like, bounce ideas off, I'm supportive, like, I want to bend my ear, you can talk to me for all night, and like whatever, if you want my opinion, like, I'll give it to you, but I'm not going to force my thoughts. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I'm not going to tell you what I would do. Like that's always, for me, is going to be a work in progress. I'm like saying I haven't perfected, but I think I've ran into issues with that in the past where it's like, it's almost like a weird high or euphoria of like, when I get in these situations where there's this drama or situations, like, all right, let's go. Like, I want to, like, this is my moment. I'm a problem solver. Right? Like, I've done this my whole life. I can fix it. And you gotta get away from that, because that's not. Then it leads to codependency shit, and it's not good.
Codependency is exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, it sounds like in your head, like exactly what you're saying. Like, it feels like you're being the superhero for them. Like, I'm going to save you. And that's not how relationships should work. I feel like relationships, you should challenge each other. You should, like I said, like, if you have an idea, I have an idea, we should, like, go toe to toe. And I feel like you respect the other person if they don't just give in and they just don't listen and they just don't always do everything you think, or vice versa. And somebody who has all these issues, has all these problems, and they constantly need you to, like, solve them, it's a codependency. It's them knowing that you'll just solve everything for them, and you're just constantly going to be in this miserable state of solving their issues. It may have nothing to do with you. You're constantly solving problems that have nothing to do with the relationship. And to me, that's a huge red flag. Like, why are there always all these issues without me? Like, I'm not saying work and all that stuff. Like, there can be things, but like, it should be a together kind of thing. I feel like once it starts separating, where you're just like constantly putting out fires for them, it's almost like they're using you at that point. And it's very hard to understand the difference. And I still struggle with it. Am I being nice, or am I being walked over? Like, which one is this? What am I doing here? And I feel like if you know your boundaries and you know what you would, like, what you feel, I think it'll be a lot clearer for you if you realize, you know what, like, I'm just stepping up for them. Like, obviously you should step up for your partner on situations that maybe that do go, but like, there's a difference. And I don't know specifically how to say it, but like, there's a difference between somebody who's taking advantage of you and using your kindness and just like using it over and over and over and over again. But again, I just don't think it'll be that easy to do if you have boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
Not for them, but just for yourself. You just know, like, you know what? This just isn't for me. Like, whatever is going on here, like, figure it out on your own. I'm sure there might be a guy to help you out or whatever, like, whatever they need. But, like, I know that sounds harsh, but I don't want somebody like that. So what am I supposed to do? Like, cave in now? Like, am I supposed to just cater to them? No, not anymore. Like, I'm not saying cater to me, but let's have our things and, like, let's find something that fits, not this, and just work this in here or this in here. It'll be good for a couple months.
We were joking earlier because that you kind of felt like it was the cliche saying of like happy wife, happy life, which I think like I believed it for so long, but then like you really sit there and you think about it as a and again from our perspective as a husband buying into that, you're inherently saying like whatever your wife needs in whatever capacity to make her happy, you're doing, which is a people pleasing, which there's always different scenarios like that could mean it's a perfect match, but inherently like that husband is doing things that they probably wouldn't do or feel comfortable doing to make that statement true, which inherently kind of goes back to what we've been talking about for the last half hour.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like, whoever wrote that had to be some sort of like abusive, like taking advantage woman who's like, you know what, happy wife, happy life. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. I'm not saying don't make your wife happy. That's not what I'm saying. But
yeah,
if that's it, if it's just happy wife, happy life, that's bullshit. You need a wife that respects you. You respect her. You make each other happy. Happy relationship, happy life. Not happy wife, happy life. What? So the guy's just supposed to be pissed the whole time?
Mark it down. Yeah. Quote it. Let's go.
Don't get me twisted. Like, I respect every woman. And in your relationship, you should respect your woman. But, like, they have to respect you back. If not, what kind of relationship is that? To me, not for me. Maybe another guy who just wants that. Or another woman wants that. But to me, I don't feel like that's a healthy relationship. They both need to be happy. Yes, make your wife happy. But, like, she's making you happy. Yeah. I feel like there's to be more to that saying. That's all. Sorry if I offended you.
No, that's good. That's good. I think we need, and this is where I think at the close of each one of these, we've asked for feedback. And one of the things that Mike and I are going to continue to do is explore ways to just get this out in greater links. And so we've asked for comments on YouTube, and I posted it to my Facebook. Mike's created a Twitter handle. We're going to continue to explore different avenues for the podcast itself. So whether that's, Spotify or some of these other ways, but we really, I think at this point, there's plenty of things that we can talk about, but it's our perspective. And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is just getting out of it. Like, I want women that have gone through similar situations as Mike and I to express their thoughts. I really want people that have been married for 5 years, for 20 years, for 40 years to talk about, no, I was actually in your guys' spot and we were, we went through these ups and downs, but we came out and like all the things you guys are saying, like we figured out a way to make it work. Like that's what it's all about is shared experiences and learning from each other.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, not everything we say, people may agree with, but this is definitely our opinions and how we feel about things. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys that feel maybe similar, and women that feel similar. So, we're just, like I said, going from our own experiences. Not everybody's the same. Not all relationships are the same. Maybe some of the things work for you, and that's fine. And, I'm not going to knock anybody's relationship. If it's working for them, it's working for them. I just know 100% what's going to work for me now, and my opinions are based basically on those kind of things. So we don't really have an outro either, by the way, so we got to work on that. We're just kind of in these episodes. But tell your friends about this. Tell your friends, your family, anybody. We're trying to figure out how to get this pushed out a little bit more. Like, we love that it was people that we know, but I think, we're trying to figure out a way to grow it, and we need to be a little more consistent and try a little harder on our end. But
yeah, we'll try not to go. I think it's been 2 weeks, unfortunately. Like we'll do better.
COVID riots,
we'll do it. So like it, share it, comment on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't. I'm Derek. That's what he said.
I'm Mike.
All right. Till next time.